according to our statistics from UBOS, that's Uganda Bureau of Standards, a lot of cooking is done using biomass. That's over 90% of the population cooks with biomass. So there's a lot of interest in seeing how can we actually improve the way people cook, because we all know that when we cook with biomass, there's a lot of fumes, there's a lot of effect on our human selves that people actually do not know. You'll find that even maybe a land person would not know that when they use charcoal in an enclosed area, they're likely to inhale a lot of carbon monoxide, and that is dangerous for them. So there's a lot of lack of awareness about the different dangers of cooking with the technologies that we are currently using, and there's a lot of room for improvement. And you find that with biomass, the biomass that we're using, the technologies that are currently largely used are mostly not improved, and they don't help the situation in terms of, but there's a lot of deforestation. And if we keep using biomass for cooking solidly without using efficient technologies, that's going to basically deplete all our forests. And that is currently with the Ministry of Energy, that's a very serious issue. So you find a lot of the government stakeholders are really interested in how can we efficiently cook with better technologies, whether it's biomass or different technologies, because you find, let's say, about less than 10% of the population is using the other alternatives for cooking, like electricity. Some will use kerosene, some will use LPG, but that's a really small percentage. So you find that there's a big challenge ahead of us that we need to tackle, and that's where CREEC is really trying to do a lot in terms of how do we contribute significantly to this challenge within Uganda. But I would say with CREEC, it's not just about Uganda. It's more of the region, East Africa, but also Africa at large, because the work we've done, especially within the Regional Testing and Knowledge Center, is not just within Uganda. It's work that covers East Africa, it's work that covers the African region, and we've also had a lot of collaborations outside of Africa within the world.
We are experienced in small hydropower, solar energy, energy efficiency, and bioenergy interventions, including biogas, gasification, combustion, torrefaction, and all kinds of cooking technologies and fuels that are available within the areas that we work in.
It doesn't matter what energy it is, like as long as it's renewable energy, whether it's cooking, whether it's lighting, there's a part that CREEC has played. And that for me is one thing that makes me want to serve more, to work at CREEC, and to reach out to more people, because then I know at CREEC I'm able to reach out to communities, I'm able to reach out to government, and to create impact. I've seen that happen in my stay at CREEC.
Over the years, CREEC has, through its interventions, impacted the energy sector here in Uganda and in the other countries where we've had projects implemented. And one of the key areas of impact has been in training and capacity building. We're able to train people from government, NGOs, civil society in general, technicians to build their confidence in technology, communities, special groups like women and the youth. We've also been able to train business entities to improve on their businesses around energy topics. And the other area of impact has been on policy. With our research work, our outputs are taken up and used to improve policies on standards and quality for different renewable energy technologies. If you consider cooking technologies, for instance, we've been a part of the committees here in the country developing standards for the sector. We've also impacted communities through interventions designed directly for rural communities, groups of farmers in different parts of the country, northern Uganda, western Uganda. And we have increased greatly in our partnership with the local government authority to continue along this trajectory.
It's exciting to actually work at CREEC, and it's that one place that allows me to create, to be innovative. Like, my work is more exciting every day that I wake up, because there are challenges that relate to practical challenges when it comes to the real world, like energy-related challenges. Like, my work is not monotonous. I find that the work I do directly impacts so many people, different communities. My background is electrical engineering, but right now I'm in cooking. And for me, in my wildest dreams, I didn't think I would be, like, cooking didn't stand out as something that is serious. Like, it's actually has a lot of impact on so many people. Like, for example, basically everyone, like the whole world, regardless of how you're cooking your meals, there's a lot of impact there. So it becomes really passionate, because the issues that we address at CREEC are personal to different people. I would say they touch so many different lives, like generally globally.
As you can imagine, our work is quite technologically based, but over time we have realized the need to work together with people from other professions in order to have or to accelerate our work and to enhance access to the different technologies that I've spoken about. In order to advance in our standards and testing, we have two testing facilities, one on solar and the other on bioenergy and clean cooking technologies. And here at CREEC is called the Regional Testing and Knowledge Center, that is serving the entire region. And through this facility and the work that we do there, we've been able to test over 300 models of cooking technologies, some of which are locally made here in the country, but several others that are imported through different projects that we have done.
This is our emissions laboratory for the Regional Testing and Knowledge Center. It's a complete setup. We have the duct system, we have the hood there. So basically what we do here is to measure emissions for the cook stoves to determine their performance in terms of CO, particulate matter. So if we want to test a stove completely, we'll bring it to this lab. We follow a quality management system of ISO 17025 to ensure that our tests are perfect and we do not have any disturbances in terms of, oh, my results are wrong and things like that. So there's a quality management control system here, and my colleague will take us through what exactly we do here, give us a demo of how we do the testing for emissions, for efficiency, to determine the fuel use. So I'll invite my colleague, Jimmy Agawa, to take on from here.
Emissions are carried out using a LEMS, that is a Laboratory Emissions Monitoring System, which is this facility in here. We start by switching on the computer because everything is automated using a computer and the software. Then after switching it on, we log in and we give it a logger file. We press in a logger file. Then afterwards, we open a live graph which will be showing us the trend at which emissions are being produced at a given time, that is at every 3 seconds. Then after that, we have a sensor box in here. This sensor box helps us to monitor the carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide levels which are being produced at a particular time as the stove is being run. Then after that, we have a blower here at this point which helps us to take out the fumes which are being generated from the hood which is there where a stove is placed. We place a stove in that hood in order to capture all the particulates and the emissions in order to pass them through this dilution tunnel. Then we have a gravimetric system at this point, which helps us to capture the particulate matters, 2.5. They are measured in aerodynamic diameters. Then we have this suction pump here, which helps us to suck out all the fraction of the particulate matters which are always released. We always place here a filter which helps us to capture those particulate matters. So in other words, the particulate matters are deposited on the filter, which is placed in the filter holder there. Then afterwards we take it for assessment to get the mass which has been deposited using an electronic weighing scale. When the test is complete, we take the filter inside protected room, which is not supposed to be accessed by anyone apart from the laboratory technician. And in this case, we have our hygroscopic substances which help to remove the moisture from the filters which we use. And in this case, we have the free filter which has not yet been used, meaning this one has not gone under any test, so it is very clean. So we take the mass before carrying out the test, and then afterwards we bring it here for conditioning for more 24 hours before we take the final mass. Then after operating the stove, depending on the amount of emissions, the particulate matters it has released, we always now get the mass after the test. And in this case, you see that a stove released a lot of particulate matters, as it can be evidenced on the filter paper. So in this case, we always monitor its weight using an electronic sensitive scale, which is here, which is measured to 5 decimal places. You have to take the measurements 5 times repeatedly to avoid any kind of error. So if you see that the results which you obtain are deviating from each other by more than 10 milligrams, then you have to take more extra measurements in order to erase out any kind of doubt within your data. Then after that, you have to first put it back inside the desiccator for it to continue to be monitored, just in case when you are analyzing your data, if you find that maybe there are some things which do not agree, you may still refer to it, because since we ensure quality in our works, so you always have to make reference to it, just in case you have maybe some values did not come out as you expected, or maybe there is a deviation. If still you find that the values don't come out as you expect, then you are forced to run another test in order to remove any kind of doubt within your results, in order to create result reliability.
Within that also, we have done specific trainings, engaged students, worked with professors in different universities, and interested internship for students to build capacity of the young people here. And within our internship program, we've actually been able to support students in placements and recommending them to further their career based on the topics of research that they have covered.
I've worked with the CREEC team for the past 1 year during my research project, right from when I was coming up with a topic to the proposal to implementation and coming up with a report. I was doing a research topic as regards investigating the effect of various locally available agents, in this case coffee husks, sawdust and rice husks, on the performance of fecal sludge briquettes. I did my carbonization at the CREEC lab. I tried out 3 various techniques, the gasifier stove, the incinerator, which both didn't work, and I was advised to use the institutional stove because it could accommodate a larger quantity of feedstock and carbonize the material at a faster rate. From carbonization, I had to come and start the briquetting process, and I was advised on the mix ratios to use, the kind of binder to use. I carbonized using a piston press machine, and later I had to test my briquettes using the water boiling test, and in all this I've worked together with a CREEC team. CREEC has helped me throughout my project in that they had most of the things I needed for my research, from carbonization to making the briquettes to testing them. They had most of the equipment that I needed, and the advantage was that I didn't have to pay for all this since I was a student, so I'd advise more students to come and do research here. The team at CREEC is very supportive. When I couldn't do some things like split firewood, carry it, light it up, they came in handy and helped me without a pay. During carbonization, I first tried using the incinerator, which didn't work out quite well because every time I would try to light it up, the fire would go off quickly, which would take a longer time for me to carbonize. I was then advised to use the forced draft gasifier stove. This one worked quite well for me, however, it had a very small diameter and therefore I would take a longer time to carbonize, yet I was time barred during my project. This is when I switched to the improved institutional stove that could accommodate more feedstock and burn it at a faster rate.
Normally find there's fuel or wood put in from every direction, whatever size of log you want to use. But this is the, let's say, the tradition baseline stove, we would say, and that's for firewood. So here we have an example of a traditional stove that's commonly used in Uganda, a traditional stove that uses charcoal. You can see that the combustion chamber is quite big. It doesn't even have any ceramic or clay liner, so there's a lot of heat loss. So you find these are stoves that you'll find used, but now we've seen a transition. There are some improvements. You can see in the local market, you'll find there's this improvement where now people, I would say this is semi-improved. It's a clay line stove, smaller combustion chamber, using charcoal commonly. And then you have a lot of local manufacture within the region, within Uganda, where you have, this is an improved, what we are calling a locally manufactured improved local stove. So it's using charcoal. You can see it's lined, so it has an element of heat saving, insulation. And then the combustion chamber is also quite small. And for this stove, you can also use what we call carbonized briquettes. So this is an example of carbonized briquettes that is not charcoal. It just uses charcoal dust. It can use agro waste. So this fuel is also used for this type of stove, or you can even use it on this stove. So there are many of these that are locally made. An example, you can see there are so many over there. This is an improved wood stove. Now you can see this stove, you can see the combustion chamber where your fuel enters is quite small. You can even use 3 or 4 pieces of wood to cook, and your food will cook really well. It's well designed, symmetrically, and an advantage about this stove is it even has a thermoelectric generator behind here. So you find that as it cooks, it also generates electricity, and that electricity can be used to charge a phone and light a bulb. Then another advancement in the technology for cooking, this is what you call a gasifier stove, and this type of stove is a forced draft stove. it uses the support of a solar panel to drive a fan that helps the stove to improve in terms of combustion, or you can even use electricity. And this kind of stove can burn tiny fuel as small as this. These are eucalyptus pellets. It burns really cleanly. It can use fecal sludge briquettes. These are, fecal sludge pellets. These are made out of fecal sludge. You can use maize cobs for this. You can actually put them in here and they will really burn and cook well. You're able to use this kind of briquette, which is non-carbonized. So as long as it's small pieces, put it in here, it will cook. You can use smaller wood chips and then it will cook. So it's quite a versatile stove, though it also comes at it's a bit expensive. And then this is an example of one electric pressure cooker. So this is one of the devices we are currently studying under one of the projects, the mixed projects, and ideally we want to prove that it is very efficient to cook with electricity. And what we have here is an ethanol stove. This is bioethanol, so you can actually cook with ethanol using this type of stove. Basically another type of carbonized briquette, but with the honeycomb type. And these are commonly used in this type of stove. These are commonly used in poultry houses because it burns for a longer period of time. So you put it in there and 5-7 hours it's burning and you don't have to change a lot. So these are examples of different fuels. We have sawdust, different waste byproducts that can actually be used to carbonize and produce briquettes. You can use them carbonized or they can be uncarbonized. So this is sawdust. We have groundnut husks, and these have all been tried. Coffee husks can be carbonized to actually produce fuels. Rice husks can be carbonized as well. Then an interesting thing here is what we are calling the volcanic rocks. The volcanic rock, you put it with charcoal, so they have an element where they help in terms of saving on the charcoal used. So you can even use char dust to basically cook with this. And then these are eggshell stones. This is another innovation happening. So these can also be mixed up with, used on the charcoal stove, and you mix it up and actually use it for cooking. From another research that's currently ongoing, we have water hyacinth that is being, what we're exploring is the feasibility of using this for biogas, basically to produce biogas and to use it for cooking or different things. So this is also something that is currently under research. An interesting one is this, what we call the fireless cooker. Locally made, can be made by women. You've cooked, say, your rice on the charcoal stove or whatever device you're using for a few minutes, not to cook it to get ready. Let's say cook it for 10 minutes. Then after that, get it and put it inside here and leave it for maybe another 30-40 minutes, and you'll find that it's ready after some time. So you're basically using less fuel, and this thing does the rest of the work. So it has a lot of insulation in there. So it's kind of just basically heat retention.
Different staple foods, if you consider cooking, for instance. How you prepare millet bread is quite different from how you prepare steamed matoke. The energy needs are different, the effort on the technology is different. So we take into account these social perspectives, cultural perspectives, because they affect acceptance of the technologies. So the human factors are many. They are difficult to measure. However, we have some models on how to predict better and put them into account as we do our designs. After we've picked this primary data, we can then say that the systems that we've designed will live for their design life. They are socially acceptable, they are environmentally acceptable, they are technically acceptable, and they are economically acceptable. And those are attributes of a sustainable energy system. Once we've ascertained that, we can then scale up, produce more interventions, multiply the number of systems, recommend and advise our partners to expand the programs.